Next we have Dr. Max Lund. Max is a retired U.S. Air Force pilot. He had 28 years in the U.S. Air Force. He flew 153 missions in Vietnam in his time. He has a PhD in mathematics, and he's now a professor at San Diego State University. Max, it's all yours.
I stepped out to cool off a little bit. Yeah, that's what I found. I want to mention 1953, there was absolutely no conception of what we do in space. The International Space Station is going to provide continuous habit of men in space forever. Think of it. Voyager 1. Voyager 1 had the gold record that the astrophysicist Carl Sagan insisted be on there. All the sounds of Earth. And it just exited the solar system last month. This is remarkable. I don't know what the future is going to hold in the next 6 years. But the things that are accomplished now, I mean, we all understand about the iPhones, the laptops, the Humpty Dumps. Okay, that's fine, you know. But you think in terms of when we looked up at the stars, we saw figures out there. We saw some stars at Alpha Centauri, for example, which is the closest to us. And of course, we saw the very famous, in between the films, we saw the Buck Rogers. You remember those? With the little phony rockets with the smoke coming out the back. And so on. Would we have ever guessed they put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth, as JFK wanted? And we were successful in doing so, remarkably. Yes, I finished my doctorate at Utah, my master's. And it goes further than that. Pardon me. The day after that I had defended my dissertation, and a week of early efforts in written and oral dissertation defense, I felt, if you forgive me, but I felt pretty good. Okay. My little girl, Laurie, and I were in the kitchen, and the phone rang. And being 7 years old, she dashed over and get the phone, and she says, of course, with her two front teeth missing, she says, "Hello." And a big booming voice on the other end, one of my Air Force buddies said, "Hello, is the doctor there?" And my little girl said, "Well, yes, he is, but he's not the kind that could do you any good." Daddy, this is for you. Okay. It brings you back to Earth real quick. It truly does. But after that, I enjoyed, I'm going to get into some space stuff here in just a little bit, but I want to tell you, I enjoyed 11 years as Associate Professor of Mathematics at the Air Force Academy. And you got to remember, I had to take dumb math at Loma. I don't know how this happened. I really don't. But it was a wonderful experience. Met a lot of nice people. But I then had a tour, as Jim had talked about, in Southeast Asia. And one of the fortunate to come back. And I do want to mention right now that your classmate and my buddy George Hennigan should be on that list back there. George and I were at Nikrasama, Thailand. That's Karat Royal Thai Air Force Base in Thailand, F-105s. And George was a river rat, and I patrolled for SAMs. But anyway, his name belongs back there, and I don't see it. And I would really encourage them to be, be added there. As you know, at the 50th, George was here, but he wasn't really in good stead, let's put it that way. I'd like to mention a couple of things that I saw at General Dynamics when I retired from the Air Force. Came down here, of course, because it's San Diego. There were two classified programs I'm going to tell you about now. They're both unclassified because neither came to fruition. The first of which dealt with what we're going to do with the expendable uranium and strontium-90, which is a byproduct of fission. As you know right now, well, let me tell you what they proposed. Department of Energy came to General Dynamics and said, look, how about taking your Atlas and your Centaur and shooting that stuff toward the moon? I beg your pardon, the sun, burn it up. Well, we found out it takes too much energy. No question about that. But we were successful. This is a classified program. It's now no longer classified. I'll tell you why. We were able to park 4 kilograms in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And yeah, that's pretty good. Department of Energy said, that's terrific. You know, you get it out of here. But there was one condition. We had to be able to absolutely assure that we'd never have a failure. If one of those were to fall back into the atmosphere, you can imagine the millions and billions of people might be called. But, you know, we lost. So that's why that program never flew. But it is feasible in that sense. Thank you, man. Send me a picture? Okay. And there were some others that were remarkable, one of which President Reagan, on his so-called Star Wars, that was the Advanced Space Defense Initiative. Because of the vastness of space, the program called ATP, which is no longer classified, it talked about acquisition, tracking, and pointing. And I'll give you an example. I'm not going to ask you guys to do so. But if you reach in your pocket, you probably pull out a quarter. And if you do, you look at it, and it's just a spoon, for example, the width of which is about 1 inch. Now, if you take it and you hold it in your hand, yeah, you can see it. And matter of fact, probably, if you go to the other end of the room, you can probably still see it. But put it a mile away. And then take a laser and divide it into 1,000 equal parts. And only when you have that kind of accuracy does the Space Defense Initiative make sense. And of course, as you know, that didn't fly either. Yeah, rather nice. But you know, we're talking about what's happened in the past 60 years, and those were a couple of issues in which I was involved. What I do find absolutely fascinating is the fact that we talk about space travel. The Buck Rogers kind of thing, you know. Flash Gordon, wow, okay. And geez, if I was just 60 years younger, oh God. Anyway, I'd love to go. But the thing about it is, it's interesting because the relativity issue kicks in. If in fact, while you are in space, just a moment, I had some notes I wanted to carry the numbers. I recalculated to ensure that I was right. One moment, please. It's the effect of age. Okay. Aha. If you were to accelerate in your space vehicle at 1 g per second until you reach about 90% of the speed of light, which we know is 186,000 miles per second, statute miles, that's 300,000 kilometers per second. That's fast. I mean, that is really, I could never get my own plane to go that fast. But anyway, it was good. If you were to do that, your friends on Earth, you're in space now, your friends on Earth, in 1 year, you would only advance in age, and your clock, your wristwatch, your chronometer, would all function exactly the same way. Everything slows down, remarkably. So that at 0.9 of c, the limiting velocity of the universe, you're looking at 159 days. You age while everybody down here is 1 year. Okay, it gets better than that. At 0.99, your friends on the Earth here, waiting for you to come back, 1 year, you've aged 52 days. 52, think about it. If you accelerate to within 1/10 of the speed of light, people on Earth here 1 year, you would only advance 26 days. What's that mean? I don't know what the future means, but I'll tell you this. What we do know, now this guy by the name had the relativity issue, and I'm talking about gravity in here at all. That's not a whole issue. What I'm discussing at this time is the fact that if we put people in space for a period of time, for example, you want to go to Alpha Centauri, the closest one that we have. It's 4.2 light years. You know, if you accelerate out there 1 g per second to about 0.9 the speed of light, it would take you a little under 18 years to go out and do a wild 360 and come back to the Earth. The numbers I just cited to you are such that when you return, it would be 126 years later on Earth. Your grandchildren, your children, possibly your great-grandchildren. 4 generations have gone by and lived and died. And you come back only 18 years older. Does that sound like science fiction? Not at all. The problem with all of that, of course, is how do we get the energy to generate? You can never reach the speed of light because it can take infinite energy to do that. I'm not talking about quanta. They move that way, but I'm talking about you and me and the space beetle, something like that. It's a remarkable era, and what is going to happen in the next 60 years, I leave it to you to judge. It's been absolutely remarkable now. It really has. I'd like to compliment my buddy, George Hennigan. I wish he were here. There are a lot of people who are not here that I knew. But the association in Vietnam meant a lot to me. It really did. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Doc.